If I've learned anything from the fairies or the faint whispers of all the happenings in Haven Hollow, it's that you are a uniquely magical individual, and you have a uniquely magical approach to your artwork and creations. And that approach and process can tell you so much about yourself, so let's talk about how to make those self-discoveries while we paint this fairy, shall we? Put on your fluffy socks, or maybe your grippy socks if you're having that kind of a day, grab a drink, and let's get started. I'm just going to chaotically bounce back and forth between talking about my creation process you're seeing in the video, and your own creation process and what it might tell you about yourself. Now listen, if you've visited my videos before, you'll know that this is a different video from my norm. I usually illustrate my fairy tale stories while I narrate them, and so if you'd like to hear the story that accompanies this painting, I'll have that linked for you. It's a cozy trolley ride through the village of Haven Hollow, and we talk all about happiness. But back to you for this video. I'm not going to cover a list of art approaches and techniques and pretend to assign you a personality profile according to your artwork or anything like that. Honestly, I can't really tell you the specifics of what your process says about you, but perhaps I can offer insight into what I've gleaned over the years, and you can learn about yourself in the process because you know you the best. Recently, I've really been focused on the idea that there's no one answer. There's not one big solution, there's no one way to do something. Even math has multiple ways to solve a problem. So I find it a little bit silly that some artists seem to think that there's only one way to create artwork, or that one type of art is the superior style. Oh, side note, that was water, by the way. If you don't know that trick, so canvas it's a fabric, right? So you know how when you like wash your clothes, it'll tighten or shrink up the fabric? Well, it works the same with canvas. I noticed that the canvas wasn't as tight on the stretcher as I wanted it to be. It was kind of loose. And so if you turn it around and you spray it with a little bit of water, and then as it dries, it'll kind of shrink up a bit. I normally start with an underpainting, but for some reason, I think I was just genuinely so excited to start with this painting that I just forgot all about it. I didn't put an underpainting, and you know what? It turned out okay. It's fine. You'll see as I progress through laying these shadows, I lightened the color just a little bit as time went on and started laying the mid-tones, and then eventually I'll put in those highlights at the very end. While I agree that learning art basics, shapes, color theory, drawing techniques, things like that are all very helpful in developing your approach to art, I personally find that we ultimately create artwork for the process of it rather than the outcome. Okay, here's what I mean. If your end goal is to hang a picture of a teacup on your wall, there are much easier ways to get a picture of a teacup than to paint one. So if you opt to paint the picture rather than buying one, photographing one, or even generating it with AI, then it tells me that you care to experience the process of painting. And if the goal is to experience the process of creating, then why do we get so caught up in the end result or the final image or the perfect lines? Oh my goodness, there is so much healing and storytelling and enjoyment to be found in the process of letting go of all those rules that you learned in 6th grade art class when your teacher gave you an F for an art assignment, which makes no sense to me, okay? And just putting paint on the dang canvas because it's fun. And that's the part that reveals the most about you. There's so much self-discovery in allowing yourself to find that zone where all that you're focused on is the canvas and the paint. What colors do you choose intuitively? What shapes do you create? What images do you depict? Even what music you listen to during the process finds a way to weave itself into your soul and onto the canvas. And after you've created a certain amount of artwork, Even if they're different styles or techniques or themes, you'll start to notice those little details that you put into every single painting that makes them so unique to you. Those are the things that tell you the most about yourself. I've started some paintings with so much anger in my heart, and by the end of the painting, it's truly as if I've pushed that anger through to my little fingertips and into the paintbrush and blended it into the canvas where it now lives. Like in a tangible way. We speak about emotions as fleeting, intangible things, but I often wonder if they're much more real and tangible than we give them credit for. The difference between an image and art lies in that process of creating, regardless of the art style or medium. It's interesting to me because one of the most frequent questions I'm asked is if I will be releasing any kind of painting tutorials. And I've thought a lot about that because I don't have a straightforward painting process. I guess I kind of have a routine that I follow and certain things that I do in a certain order, but other than that, it's quite chaotic. You'll see in some of my previous videos that I will go one direction with a painting and halfway through completely cover it up and change it, and that's quite common. I did create an ebook a while back outlining a lot of my approach, but that's different than a tutorial, isn't it? So I recently decided to start making these process videos to show my process, though I still don't think I'd consider this a tutorial. The concept is difficult for me because I truly believe that a beginner can pick up a brush and create something just as beautiful as an experienced artist, especially when the end goal is to find magic in the process of creating. I might actually even say that sometimes a beginner can create more freely than an experienced artist because you're not caught up in the techniques. You don't know all the rules, and so it truly is just you and an emotion and an image that you want to create, and you just go for it. There's magic in that process. Back to the painting really fast. This is called glazing. What you saw me put on the palette is a clear acrylic medium, and that is a video all in itself, but essentially it is a clear paint that you can use to make a different color of paint more transparent. You can do that by adding water as well for more of a wash, but if you use too much water with acrylics, then it breaks the binding, so the transparent mediums helps hold the binding together if that's the look you're going for. Anyway, I noticed she looked a little lifeless, the face, so I added just a little bit of yellow to warm up the face a little bit, and you really can't tell the difference in the video, but in real life, it made a huge difference, just that thin layer of yellow. Let's talk about that skill set for a moment though. Namely, I'd like to bring your attention to the hand in this painting. I was studying my reference image, which by the way is my dear friend Juliana, and she is the most beautiful being. I decided from the start that I was excited to paint her face and not very interested in investing time in the hand, because hands are hands, and if you've created hand art, then I don't need to say much else. So I went back to that thought, that there's no one way to do things. There's no right or wrong when painting the image. I was raised in a very black and white culture with very clear rules for life. It has taken years to start to unwind that approach. And allowing myself to neglect the hands in this painting was just one more step I took in that healing process, all right? I made a conscious choice to ignore the rule that hands need to be good hands, Could I paint a realistic hand? Sure, but that wouldn't make the process enjoyable for me. It would take more time, I would be focused on details that I'm not interested in. And if I'm not going to enjoy painting, then why am I painting? Why force yourself to create something you don't like? So I took a more impressionistic approach with the hands especially. I didn't add much detail. I covered them in some vines and focused on the face, and I loved every second of this painting. To the point where making that decision really refreshed my approach to artwork. Sometimes, I'll be so honest with you, sometimes I make a painting because I need it for a video. That's it. And my heart is not always in it because the YouTube wants me to continue to post consistently, and so that's required sometimes in the path that I've chosen for myself. And ignoring some of the rules in this painting really helped refresh some of that creative energy that I've been missing out on. Actually, this video in itself is another one of those rules that I've been following and decided there's no harm in breaking. I create my paintings in batches, or collections, I guess is the artistic way of saying a batch, and once the batch is finished, I create a video for each of those paintings. Now this is all very time consuming. I usually get one video made in a month because it takes the entire month to make that video, and I usually end up skipping a month of posting when it comes time to create a new batch, which is what's happening this month. But this time around, my husband went off about anime and something about a beach episode. And I don't know what he's talking about, but I did decide it's okay to not post my normal fairy tale content. I made myself such a rigid creation schedule that I was just getting burnt out and overwhelmed. And what on earth am I doing if I went to the effort to make a whole career out of the magic of creating and I'm not even enjoying my own process? So the video style you're currently watching is what I've recently started making for Patreon, so you can find more there if you'd like. But posting it here this month allows me an additional way to connect with you. It allows me more time to paint for future videos. It appeases the dang YouTube algorithm, and I get to enjoy the process of it all instead of feeling so rushed. Now, pay attention to your own thoughts, because if your brain is currently thinking of a creation process you might be overcomplicating, may I suggest not doing that, and instead asking yourself what you need to do to enjoy that process of creating instead of seeing it as a checklist. I often work with this acrylic metallic ink on the final layer and add a lot of dots and drips and leaves and shapes. From the front, you can't tell the metallic part is really there, but from the side, it glistens, and I love that. And sometimes I go overboard, but that's okay. And I hope you've noticed your own version of those intuitive mark makings, not only in your artwork, but in your life as well. Do you know what I mean? When you think of a good friend, you think of all those little quirks that make them uniquely them. I love those things. Embrace those things, okay? Go forth and create. If you'd like to hear the fairy tale story behind this painting, click this video. I'm so happy you're here.